way we saw things back then, we were winners. And they just had a lot of guys who thought, very, very beatable. And so we just thought we would just take it over.
Also, you had the Lance Von Erich, which was the Von Erich that you tried to include after David's death, I believe, and it didn't go down very well. Whose idea was that?
Nick, I'm going to tell you something, buddy. We're in a live book one day. A whole lot of stuff has happened that's like, no one ever thought we liked the idea of Lance being called the Von Erich. He thought it was a terrible idea, and that outvoted all of us. I mean, one vote outvoted all of us. It was not a family business at all, as much as it was Dad said do it, so we did. And we thought it was a terrible idea, and we did. Dang it, I'm sorry. I wish we had never done that. But my dad had gotten to where I was wrestling 3 times a day. Mike, or Dave had just died, and so our office had been running 3 shows a day. That's me, Dave, and Kerry. One of us were wrestling in any town, in a town every day. And so we didn't have a big town going. And so on those days, and this is like we're talking every 7 days a week. And so on those days when Dave died, it was Kerry who worked twice a week one week, and I worked twice a day the next week, So that's the way we do it. Well, then Kerry had this motorcycle accident, and so I'm wrestling 3 times a day, every day. And after his charter, I never had to get to and from the town. So it was really, really hard work. And that's came along at a time, at this time, and so it was really a tough time to deal with problems like that when my mind was really somewhere else. I was busy as heck.
I think also World Class had a huge world fan base, but you didn't really go out of Dallas. Why was that the case?
Well, we really did. We went to Japan like 5 times a year for 10 years, and we went to the Middle East 3 times. I met with President Herzog in '85, and Shimon Peres, I met him, and I met the High Chief of Nigeria, and I mean, we did all the traveling for guys that never traveled. So I have heard that before. I wonder where that came from, because we sure did a lot of traveling, to tell the truth. In fact, we really did more overseas than any other wrestling group.
What I mean is, in terms of the TV, initially that in the documentaries, you talk about the fact that you wanted to expand, and your dad didn't want you to run those times.
Gotcha. Well, that was because back in the old days, there was an agreement in wrestling that if your television was stronger than other guys in his territory, well, that was just where you didn't go into somebody else's backyard and run shows, because he had a business to run, and that was a gentleman's agreement. And it was really good from the 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s, and all that. Around the 70s, 80s, and 90s, men didn't do business like that anymore. And it was like, every man for himself. Well, my dad still was a man of his word. And even though we had a higher TV rating in all of the other markets than any wrestling, we would not go, because my father had given us word years and years and decades before that he wouldn't do that. And so we didn't. And I have to say I admire my dad for being that way, but if he would have gone, then it probably would have made a big change. That's what a lot of people think.
Well, during the most successful times with World Class, what was the morale of the locker room like during your peak times?
Oh, a lot of practical jokes. It was funny, always funny. Something was going on all the time. Yeah, I could go all the way without telling you the stories that took place, but it just didn't have time.
You won the, I believe it was the WCWA championship, is that right?
Well, it almost got me killed in Japan for one thing. when that WCCW title was, believe me, the goal in mind was to take all of these titles and combine them and make a real champion out of it. And the whole thing was kind of twisted up there. It sounded good in its early days, but it didn't come out that way. But as far as that time, I went over to Japan one time, and I was on second, and some guy tried to, was going to take my belt, had me on early in the night. I thought, what is going on here? And it was just like I had done some kind of real faux pas over there. Or actually, one of my relatives, you mentioned Lance, had done a real faux pas by leaving the country in the middle of the night. And all these obligations to show up in these buildings, he just stood them up. Well, I had to go over and take over for him, and I had to go from a hospital bed, and so I was really mad about that. And so
I know that Mike, your brother Mike, started wrestling. Was that something that he wanted to do? Because I know there's a lot of accusations that your dad pushed him into it or things like that. Is that true, or was it something he wanted to do? What were your thoughts on Mike wrestling?
Well, the way I look at it, Mike, now that I look back on it, I'm not sure that Mike really did want to wrestle as much as the crowd wanted Mike to be Dave again. They wanted to see David Von Erich alive again. And really, David only did 2 years when Mike passed away. And all that pressure was on Dave. When it was on Mike, David only been alive a year. And during a year. And so Mike, there was a lot of pressure. And I think he did pretty well for the pressure that he was under. But just because it was so much pressure, I wouldn't say that he didn't want to be a wrestler. It seems to me like if anyone did want to be a wrestler, it was me. Not really. I think Mike wanted to be a wrestler more than I did. I just plain hated it, to tell the truth. At first.
When Mike suffered the toxic shock syndrome attack, how much did Mike change after that?
Oh my gosh, that was like 9. You could look at his checkbook, and you could see how he would be lucid, but he would be thinking straight. Keeping his numbers and all together, and then all of a sudden, that check line high, it would be like he wouldn't keep his numbers. It would be just like all over the place. It was like he was going through these mood swings, I think, and he didn't understand what was wrong with him. He just knew something was really wrong with him. No one told me one time, something was wrong with me. I said, what do you like? And he said, no, really, really wrong with me. We saw this thing we do where we'd stand on the sides of a canoe and we'd try to bug the other brother off, like jerking the canoe back and forth and shaking it back and forth, or jerking up and down. And it used to be we could never shake Mike off, or you could shake it off the canoe real easy after that feature. And so it did something to him really he was not going to come back from.
Another question I've got here is about Kerry's motorcycle accident. I know he actually lost his foot because initially the foot was saved. What happened after that? How did he actually lose it?
Well, it turned out that it was out in Argyle, Texas, and Kerry was going to pass a car on the right. And in this country we drive on the right, and so that was a bad thing. The car was turning right too, and so Kerry was passing, and the car pulled into Kerry. Kerry went to jump over the car and to try to jump over it and cleared it, except for the lights. His foot got caught between the car and the lights, and it tore the end of his foot off. And so he had to wrestle the rest of the time with a prosthesis. Hello, this is Kevin Leonard. Listen with you on the Rafferty Connection podcast. I hope you enjoy it.